Guys, it's Nova and welcome back to Cupid. Um I've calmed down a bit since that last episode. The end of the last episode really had me up in arms for obvious reasons. But it's a few days after the fact, and let's see what kind of bullshit Mother is going to invoke on Rosa this time. And I know I read this sentence already, but I'm going to reread it again just for the lulz. It was her fault anyway. She had disobeyed Mother. She deserved the punishment. She drowned herself in her arms and felt the familiar surge of love. Come on, it's not even a minute in the game. Don't start with me. You already know how I feel about this whole scenario if you watched the last half hour of my last video. This is bullshit. This is not home. I'm sorry. In any event, home. No matter how broken. Life before Mother was a blur. She was nothing without her. Mother looked into her eyes and touched her face, wiping away her tears. She locked her lips around hers and delivered a long, deep kiss. Okay, hopefully we're not getting ready to dip into some very uncomfortable territory here. I know, in some families, it's normal for a parent or a family member to kiss someone on the lips like that. So, I don't know. I'm just, still so leery about Mother, considering what I know about her and what went down in the last episode. So, yeah. I love you so much, my darling. Please forgive me. I love you too, Mother. Don't cry. Oh, you're bleeding. Just wait here. No shit, she's bleeding. You just beat her upside the head with a cross. This woman. Mother sat her on a chair and returned with a roll of bandages. She began nursing Rosa's head with delicate care. I'm sorry, Mother. No, I'm the one who's sorry. Yeah, you better be. Forgive me for what I said. You know I would never leave you, right? Even if you had committed the foulest sin, I would never desert you. I will always be by your side. Thank you, Mother. I get worried, darling. You understand? Yes. I am very afraid. Always afraid. The woman's voice dropped into a whisper. A sudden split second of lucidity. You scared me. She shook her head, forgetting the thought. Just obey me from now on. Promise? Mother knows what's best for you. Yes, Mother. Later on, at dinner time, Rosa's favorite dish was on the menu. The vegetable and meat stew with brown gravy that only her mother would make. Rosa tucked in eagerly, all the while feeling the cool bandage pressing lightly against her forehead. The events of the past hour had already seemed to fade away into a distant memory. Mother sat across the table, also eating. She seemed to be deep in thought. Mother? I won't see that boy anymore. If he calls out to me, I'll run until he can't catch me. I know you will do the right thing, my darling. You didn't ask for all this, did you? You poor thing. This is interesting. If only your father was a better man. Here, Rosa pricked up her ears. It was rare to hear Mother talk about Father, and even rarer to see her mention him so calmly. All throughout her life, Rosa had wondered about the man who Mother had fallen in love with. Now it looked like she had the opportunity to glean a few more rare bits of information. Well, you know what, Rosa? Be careful with that, because this woman is very temperamental. She seems very calm and lucid right now, but then she might snap if you press too much, so be careful. Father, was he good to you? Mother puckered up her lips and appeared to ignore this. Oh boy, here we go. Rosa, no! Rosa decided to risk it and asked another question, tentatively. Did you love him a lot? Mother's eyes were somewhere far away. I don't know. No emotion, neither pain nor fondness registered on her face. But he certainly loved me back then. Maybe. Now I'm smarter. I know better than to trust men like him. You too will understand when you grow up that people who love you will hurt you the most, and you will only have yourself to blame. Now, again, I don't know. I mean, that's not entirely true. Like, I don't know. Like, if somebody is being deliberately poisonous to you, manipulative towards you, I don't know. Like, you can't really say that you're to blame, because this person clearly knows what they're doing to you. You know, they know that they're trying to hurt you in one way or another. Only way I can say that you have yourself to blame is if you, let's say, knowingly get into a relationship with this person, knowing that they have the potential to hurt you, and, you know, eventually that time comes, and then, like, you can't act like you're surprised. Like, you knew ahead of time getting into this relationship with this person that they were going to be like this, you know? Kind of like if you date somebody who you know has had a history of being unfaithful in the past. Like, it shouldn't come that big of a surprise to you, I hate to say, if you learn later that they were unfaithful to you. And in a way, in that sense, you know, you can't really blame anybody for what, I don't know. I'm kind of getting off track here. But you get what I'm trying to say here. I don't really 100% agree with what Mother's saying here, because sometimes it is on the other person. It's not necessarily your fault, but sometimes it is, you know. But you know how I feel about Mother as it is, so let's just continue. Why does this visual novel do this? Like, I just finished going off on this tangent, and then I'm like, okay, let me get back on track. And then, like, the next sentence after is usually paraphrasing what I just said. It's spooky. Get out of my head, game. After all, you gave them permission to rearrange the awnings of your soul. Do not give anyone that permission. I can't believe I'm actually somewhat agreeing with this woman. Like, that's another reason, too, why I kinda am not really into dating anymore. Not so much that I can't be bothered, it's just I don't like having that vulnerability anymore. Like, the few instances where I have opened up to people and told them about, like, the problems I'm going through, or to, you know, exhibit some form of trust in them, it's always gone bad on my part. And I don't know, I don't want to say that it's made me more suspicious of people, but it has basically put me more on guard. You know, that I don't really want to open myself up to that person, because I just feel like I'm setting myself up for disaster, so to speak. So I do agree with Mother in that sense, not to give anyone that permission, not to give anyone that power, so to speak, over you. So, alright, you win this one, Mother. Rosa nodded, accepting her mother's teachings. Promise me, darling, when the time comes and you meet a demon like your father, you'll take revenge for me. Huh. Okay, so this is interesting. So, considering what's been going on lately with Guilleme, like, she's so hell-bent on getting revenge against Guilleme, is Guilleme very similar to Rosa's father? You know, like, personality-wise? Because Rosa's mom has said a number of things like against Guilleme, like, oh, I know men like him and this and this and that. So this actually makes sense in a way why she has it out for Guilleme so badly. Like, Guilleme must really, really, really remind Mother about her ex-lover. And that's why she just wants to make sure he gets his just desserts so that he doesn't get away with what he's done or what he's doing. Interesting. I still don't like Mother, but this does add some context to what's been going on. Okay. Whoa, okay, calm down. Take revenge for me. Okay, so now I guess we're back in the present. Rosa's hands were over her head. She pressed herself into a corner, panting. Oh, okay, I see. She had never heard Mother this loud before. Whoa, lady, calm down. Take revenge. This one was so loud it rattled around her skull and made her vision blur. Mother, what more do you want? The spell is already... She bent her head down, black spots creeping into the edge of her vision. She was so tired. You cannot hide anything from me. What is this doubt you are nursing? You are hesitating. You are crafting another spell. You stupid harlot. That filthy Marquis is exactly the kind of monster I have been warning you about. You dare plan behind my back? I just don't want to kill him. Holy shit. What has Mother had you do in the past, Rosa? I just don't want to kill anymore, Mother. She couldn't help but answer back this time. How could she not? After years filled with love and acceptance, it made her realize all the more how precious life was. The thought of snuffing out somebody else's life sent a detestable shiver through her bones. She had planned on running away from this place, abandoning whatever duty that now fell into her hands. Why was it her duty anyway? She just wanted to take the good memories of this place and taint them no longer. Whatever truth she sought wasn't enough payment for peace. I don't want to. Her voice shook. I don't want to kill him, Mother. I don't want to kill anyone. Please. Is this cowardice or stupidity? Oh, God. Okay. Here we go. You fancy him, don't you? You hate him, don't you? Well, I don't know. I mean, from what I know about Rosa, again, I don't feel that choice number 2 is accurate. If anything, she might resent him a bit for what happened to Catherine. And you know what? It's kind of weird too in a way because I feel like she might have actually had feelings for Catherine to an extent. But I don't think she hates him. This fancy thing though, I don't know. Like, it's been a while since I've actually seen evidence that Rosa actually cares for Guilleme more than a friend. Like, the first 2, maybe 3 episodes, it was kind of alluded to that she had the hots for Guilleme. But then, you know, when the whole plot with Guilleme and Catherine took place, that kind of got put on the back burner. So, I'm going to go with number 1 only because I don't think number 2 is accurate. And you know what? The word fancy, it doesn't necessarily mean that she likes him. It's just that she likes him, you know, as a person in general. Like she just said, she doesn't want to kill anybody else. She just wants to take the good memories that she has of him and of this place and just keep that in her memory. So, I feel okay with clicking on number 1. Or maybe... The voice petered out into an abrupt, chilly silence. Rosa waited, sweat dripping down her brow. I knew it. You fancy him, don't you? You filthy whore. It's not like that, Mother. Past and present, rinse and repeat. Repeat. Always, always a selfish little girl. Who's talking? You're the one that's got your daughter trying to exact this plot of revenge on your behalf. Rosa was horrified. No, I'm not selfish. A selfish little girl that loves a murderer more than her own. Okay. I find this so ironic because Rosa just finished saying that she doesn't want to kill anymore. So, Mother might not be literally the one holding a knife, but she's the one that's serving as the driving force. So she's just as much as a murderer as Guilleme is, if she wants to put it that way. So, not to mention that you were abusive as fuck to this kid. Or, now she's a young woman, but she has no right to even make a comment like this. But you know what? I'm going to rein in my anger. And we're just going to continue the story. With this final proclamation, Rosa was struck to the floor. The feeling of fainting was stronger than ever. Alone in the dark, she lay there, panting like a sick dog, waiting for what would come next. What? What the actual... What? Guilleme killed me. He made me love him, and then he betrayed me. He deserves death. Only you can kill him. I can't kill him. It's what I want. That's not true. It is. Oh! This is Catherine. I was about to say, what in the world? Okay. This is Catherine talking from beyond the... Oh, boy. Or at least this is Catherine in Rosa's mind. Like, I don't know. Could this be actually Catherine, like, talking to her from beyond the grave? What the hell is going on? Alright, I'm going to assume this is Catherine, so... You're my best friend, Rosa. Friends avenge each other, don't they? My darling daughter. I could always count on you to do the right thing. So kill him. Kill Guilleme. Kill him. Promise me. Make him suffer. Stab him with a knife. Stick a dagger down his throat. Gouge his eyes out. Take revenge. This poor girl. Rosa clutched her head so hard she thought her skull would burst. For a long time she laid as though she were dead. 5 minutes, 10 minutes passed. Then, in the middle of the empty room, Rosa's voice rang out as clear as a bell. I understand. Oh boy, really? Just... Oh dear, okay. Alright. Rosa knocked on Guilleme's door, carrying a tray of food. Didn't think she was gonna, act this out so soon. She had been poisoning his meals in small doses for weeks now, taking note of any ill effects it yielded. There had been none. Guilleme was still as fit and healthy as ever. No symptoms at all, even after she increased the dosage. Either he hadn't eaten anything for a month, or he was immune to poison. Both possibilities were suspect. Rosa knocked again. There was no response from the other side of the door. It may have worked. It was not a total loss, however. She remembered Catherine mentioning how particular Guilleme was with his sleep. Just as she had been about to give up, she had ventured on this hunch. It was true. Guilleme was curiously rather sensitive to sedatives. Rosa had offered rose tea to Guilleme that afternoon under the guise that she had made a new recipe. It had been laced with opium and valerian, sweetened with honey to mask the taste. Whether or not it was the casting of Philia, he had drunk it without second thought. He had retired early that evening. Rosa noted the grogginess visible in his gait. She snuck the master key this evening. Tonight is her night. Rosa pushed the door to his room open. It took a couple of seconds for her eyes to adjust in the darkness. It felt like a different world inside this room. By closing the door, it was as if she had cut herself off from the living. Rosa took an unsure step when she found her bearings. She placed a tray of food on the nearest flat surface, careful not to make any noise. The candle she lit provided little comfort. It seemed to cower from the intimidating blanket of shadows. Rosa heaved. The air felt humid in here, the atmosphere almost stale. Now that she was inside and venturing deeper, a sudden impulse to find a door gripped her. She looked back. It seemed farther away. Why was she so anxious? She had been in this room before. It was perfectly normal. Tonight was a different story. The room seemed to breathe. Rosa gulped. What a curious word. There was no other way to describe it, though. The flickering shadows made it seem like the walls were respiring around her. The room felt alive. It was asleep, like its owner, but alive. In the dim light of her candle, the red carpet looked like flesh. The furnishing were viscera. It didn't feel like she entered a room at all, but a belly. Ugh. Something darted in the corner of her eye. Rosa snapped her head. Just a curtain. Rosa let out the breath she was holding in her chest, aware with every move her body made. She tiptoed towards the canopy. It was perhaps the highlight of the room, an organic monstrosity of red plush and velvet. From afar, it didn't look like a bed at all, but a cage. If the room was a cavern of meat, then this was its heart. Rosa approached. Every muscle in her body was tense. She could see a figure sprawled on the bed, limbs sticking out clumsily. He was lying on his chest, back bare, clothes littering the floor. Guilleme seemed to have fallen into the bed instead of climbing in. One of his arms stuck out from the mattress. His breath was fitful but slow, a light snore coming from him. What was that? Rosa looked around for the source of the noise, but the room was still. A slow trickle of sweat traced her spine. Did that come from the window? Should she check? Rosa didn't move. Something was in the room with her. She could feel it. She stole a glance at Guilleme. He hadn't moved from the bed. Rosa's ears tried to pick up the faintest noise. It felt like hours of her staying frozen on that spot, wishing to blend with the darkness. But there was no one there. She had probably imagined it. I don't know. You probably didn't, hon. She took a deep breath and calmed herself down. The sooner she was out of the room, the better. Yeah, I agree. Philia's effect would diminish once the candle died. After that, she might not have another chance. She had to find out more about him tonight. The thought of her goal helped steel her nerves. Where should she begin? She took a step. Rosa darted her head, looking for the source of the skittering noise. Her ears were too sensitive now. She heard every creak and moan in the room. She took a deep breath. Focus. Rosa surveyed everything. There was a book by Guilleme's bedside table. It was only a couple of steps away, but she had to come dangerously close to the bed. As much as she could, she rather maintained a distance between her and the creature on the bed. Creature. Why did she think that? Perhaps it was the arrangement of the sheets or the shadows playing their tricks, but Rosa shook her head. Perhaps there was another place to look? We've come here to gather information. You should check the book. Rosa sighed. Mother was right. She had to check every source to be sure. She inched herself closer to the bed. The faint candlelight indicated that the book on the bedside was red. It wasn't the journal she had seen Guilleme write in. Rosa tiptoed her way closer. Guilleme's hand dangled mere inches away. She reached her hands towards the book. Oh, goodness. Oh, noiselessly. Okay. And swiped it noiselessly. The candle almost went out with her sigh. She backed up from the bed with the book under her arm. Adrenaline surged in her blood. It almost made her smile. Rosa examined her prize. A book in a foreign language. She remembered seeing such thin, obscure characters somewhere. She wasn't sure which country, but it was probably Asian. She flipped the book and saw a piece of parchment folded on one of the pages. A sailing permit for a barge named La Victoria, dated for the end of the month. 2 days from now. It outlined the cargo and the purposes of the trip with no date of return. Traveling? No. Leaving. Guilleme was planning to leave. This was a suspicion she had had since she had started observing him. His sudden aloofness with the town affairs, the secret purchase of a ship, the decrease of servants in his employ. Now it was confirmed. It's just as well we found this. We must end it tonight before he has a chance to escape. Although it was a good thing to confirm this suspicion, the fact helped her little. If anything, it just made it even more urgent to find something tonight. She had to continue. Rosa steadied herself and stepped back to the bed. Her hand finally brushed up against the wood of the table after some quiet fumbling. She caught sight of something shiny inside the drawer. Open it, child. Rosa pulled the drawer open ever so slightly. She peeked inside. Inside was an ornate dagger with a golden hilt, set in with rubies. An old, delicate pattern was carved on its blade. There was a heat emanating from it, almost like if it was alive, like the rest of the room. She almost missed it in the dim light, but there was also a key in the same cabinet. Interesting. Like, I'm kind of worried. Again, I'm probably overthinking this, but I'm kind of worried that if I take the dagger first, let's just say, because usually this is what happens in these kind of scenarios, Guilleme will suddenly wake up and he'll see that we have the dagger in our hand. So he'll think that technically that is what Mother wants us to do, to kill him. But he'll react very harshly if he sees us with the knife in our hand. Versus if we take the key, I don't know, like we might be able to lie about why we have the key in our hand versus why we have the dagger. Not to mention that a key is probably a lot easier to hide, so if he does like suddenly wake up, we can maybe hide the key on us versus the dagger. It might be harder to hide. I don't know. Like one seems more aggressive than the other, so to speak, like to take the dagger. And I don't know, because at the same time too, you would want to protect yourself in case Guilleme reacts very strongly. So, like, if I took the key first and Guilleme reacts very badly, I don't have the dagger now to protect myself. So, I don't know. You know what? I'm going to take the key first. Just to see. Take the key and leave that dagger. I have a bad feeling about that weapon. Okay, interesting. I'm surprised Now, Very interesting. I wonder now if I had actually picked up the knife and Mother would have said the same thing, or if she would have actually flipped the script. Like, she would have said, I have a bad feeling about that key, and take the knife and leave the key. Like, I'm very, okay. We'll find out in a later playthrough, but for now, let's just keep going. Leave it be. Rosa agreed with Mother. The weapon was as sinister as it was beautiful. She didn't want to touch it. Rosa took the tiny key into her hand, feeling the cool metal against her palm. She pushed the drawer back. Oh, God. Guilleme shifted. Rosa blew the candle out. She scuttled behind a small table. It barely hit her. Guilleme had changed positions in his sleep. Now his face was in full view and facing her direction. Rosa's heart banged in her chest. It was so loud she was concerned the room might echo the sound and announce her intrusion. Rosa waited for a few minutes before moving. She decided to crouch down, holding the unlit candle close to her chest. Easy now. She shuffled away from the bed in relief. The candle was dead, but her eyes were now well adjusted to the darkness. She could make out a desk in the furthest part of the room. He must do most of his writing there. There is a huge chance the journal is near. It wasn't very dignifying, but Rosa decided to crawl towards it. Now that Guilleme's face was in full view, a flutter of the eyelid was all it would take to catch her. It would be better to minimize her risk. She dropped to her knees and placed her palms on the floor. What was that? She drew her hand back. Was she imagining it? When her palms touched the floor, When her palms touched the floor, it felt warm. Wet. Her fingers were sucked into the floor as if she had touched... Oh my God. Were sucked into the floor as if she had touched soft, pulpy flesh. The hallucination was so strong that her nose detected a spray of iron in the air. Oh, God. Her stomach heaved. She rubbed her hand. There was no wetness or blood anywhere. The floor was solid. It must have been her imagination. I hope so, because... Rosa touched the floor warily, patting it and pulling on the carpet fibers. Just a normal carpet. Rosa let out slow, small breaths as she started to move once more. She patted her way to the desk. Every time her skin came into contact with the floor, bile rose up in her throat. It took some effort to resist the urge to gag. Finally, the desk was directly in front of her. She looked back at the bed. From this angle, it was hard to tell if Guilleme had moved. She had hoped that the big desk also hid her in its shadows. Rosa rummaged. There was no trace of the book on the tabletop. She only found a pot of ink, loose sheets of paper, and a quill. That damn thing had to be close. She opened the first shelf and found a stack of papers. Nothing. She shuffled through them, but the drawer didn't have the journal. She looked through the second drawer, and the third. There was nothing of interest. Finally, she pulled on the last drawer. It was locked. Rosa sucked the air through her teeth. Of course it's locked. How could I have been so stupid? Rosa slumped. What are you upset about? You have a key. Rosa slumped in a depressed heap. Okay, so if I had actually gotten a knife, I would have been stuck here. Because then it would have been... interesting. Because then I bet you it would have been hard for me to do this part. Because how would I have been able to get back over to where the dagger and the key were at if Guilleme... Okay, I'm glad I took the key after all. Rosa looked at the key in her hand. She slid it into the hole and heard the lock click. A deep feeling of relief washed over her. I am so glad I took the key first. The drawer slid open. Rosa looked inside. There it was. In her eyes, the green journal was a treasure. She lifted the book from its resting place. It was heavier than she expected. Rosa smiled. She ran her hands along the velvet cover of the book, savoring the texture. At last, she had it. Child. Mother's voice was riddled with anxiety. Something is wrong. Oh, fuck, is he awake? Her excitement had clouded her senses. Almost at once, she felt a change in the air. Everything was still. Her stomach shrank into its cavity. Fresh sweat broke out on her scalp. This silence, it had weight. It pressed on her skin and made the air thin in her lungs. Rosa stood up. She had to leave. Now. Rosa shuffled her way out of the room. With every step, her legs seemed to stick uncomfortably to the floor. It slowed her movement. One more step. Her whole foot felt like sinking. She held onto a chair and staggered back. It was throbbing, musty and red, alive and without skin. The air was filled with the unmistakable stench of fresh meat. Rosa ran to the door. She didn't care that the handle seemed to curl around her finger. She pulled the door open and spilled into the corridor. Rosa fell to her knees while she heard the door close behind her. It almost felt like the door closed by itself. In her confusion, she couldn't be sure. Rosa's heart pounded heavily in her ribs. Just looking at the doorway of the room made her skin crawl. Rosa gathered her wits and stared at the journal in her hand. She hoped it would contain the information they needed. Whew!